Well, the Mariners just had probably their worst weekend of the season thus far. They end up losing the series in Miami to the Marlins, which is just unacceptable, is really the only word I can put to it. I am going to go over the games very briefly here. Normally, I would try to put in some highlights and videos over top of what I'm saying to kind of show what I'm talking about, but I can't be asked to do that right now. In game one, unfortunately, the Mariners would lose that 3-2 in extra innings. George Kirby had a really decent outing. He did give up solo shots back to back from Brian De La Cruz and Josh Bell in the sixth. Otherwise, pitched really well and really efficiently and gave his team a chance to win. However, the offense just could not get anything going. Ryan Bliss could. He had a 3-for-3 game, but otherwise the offense was totally anemic. The most frustrating part of that game was in the top of the eighth. Both Ryan Bliss and Victor Robles got on for you, and your 1-2-3 in the order was coming up. 3-pitch K to JP Crawford, 3-pitch K to Dylan Moore, and 3-pitch K to Julio Rodriguez. That's just terrible. I mean, I don't know what else you can call it. That's really bad from your 1-2-3 in the order. That's how are you going to win games when tough stuff like that is happening? Like I said, did go into extras. We could not score the Manfred man, who I think at that time was Tyler Locklear. I want to say, I don't remember exactly who it was. And then the Marlins came up. First pitch from Austin Voth. Tim Anderson, of all people, hits a liner to left field to walk it off. So we lose game one. And then going into game two, I mean, the vibes couldn't be worse, but you have Logan Gilbert on the mound. You're hoping he can get something special going. And overall, it was a great bounce back game. You end up winning 9-0. Whenever the offense scores 9 runs, you have to be happy with that. You got 2 in the first inning, 4 more in the fourth with a Luke Raley triple, a Dominic Canzone single, a Ryan Bliss single, and a JP Crawford fielder's choice. And in the fifth, Canzone absolutely murdered a baseball 400 feet into the second deck of right field, which Canzone is such an interesting character because it just feels like unless he hits that homer, he just doesn't do anything else other than some decent plays in the outfield. Ryan Bliss had back-to-back 3-hit nights. He did have a double in the eighth to score the 9th run for the Mariners. And during all this, Logan Gilbert had one of his best starts of the season and back-to-back starts because his last start against the Texas Rangers was lights out. He would go 8 innings against the Marlins, gave up 4 hits, no runs, only 1 walk and 6 Ks. He could have went out for the complete game shutout. However, he was taken out in the 9th for Bizardo, and I know a lot of people were upset with that move, but I mean, it is what it is. I would have liked to see Logan get it, but I mean, I'm not going to lose sleep over it necessarily. So you win game 2 and you think, okay, we're back in the driver's seat for this series that we should win and realistically should have swept, but that's gone already at this point with the game 1 loss. And coming into game 3, immediately, I think we could all feel it as Mariners fans how this game was going to go because Bryce Miller just straight up stunk. I mean, I hate to be harsh, but he was terrible today. Could not find the zone. When he did, he was right over the plate. He only lasted 4 innings, gave up 6 runs on 6 hits, 2 of them being home runs. And you're immediately at a huge deficit, which is hard to overcome with this offense the way it is. And the offense did try to battle back. They got up to 4 runs going into the 9th. Luke Raley did have a solid day, had a 2-run homer that went the opposite way, which was really cool to see and a really nice little moment there. And we almost had the comeback in the 9th off of future Mariner, hopefully Tanner Scott. He did have the bases loaded with 2 outs and Julio up, but Julio hits a line drive right to the second baseman who leaps and barely catches it. That would have been the game tying hit at that point, but it gets caught. It ends the game. It secures the series loss for the Mariners. So let's go back out of just the game recaps and what does this series loss mean? And like I said earlier to start this, video, this was the worst weekend for the Mariners this season thus far. It's not even close because you had the Astros facing, I think, the Orioles and the Rangers facing the Royals. Both the Astros and Rangers end up sweeping their series against the Royals and Orioles, which is ridiculous considering those are really great teams. And then you lose a series to the Miami Marlins. Now your lead has been cut from the Astros are only 6.5 behind you, and the Rangers are only 7 behind you, and you went into the series with like at least a 9-game lead. Although it's great that we had that buffer there, and we still have a considerable lead on those guys, you have to hope that these guys on the Mariners hopefully learn from this really terrible series in general, other than game 2, come out of it better, because you're about to face Tampa Bay, who are no slouches at all. I don't know, I'm just frustrated because it's like you can win series against the Atlanta Braves, you can sweep the Texas Rangers earlier in the season, but then you lose a series to the Miami Marlins. Like, what is going on? And granted, I know this is a 162 game season. These types of losses, they're going to have bad losses, and they still haven't gotten swept yet, so you kind of have to give them that a little bit. But these are series that you should win. If not, I mean, kind of should have swept. You also basically got handed the series because you were going to face Jesus Luzardo and Braxton Garrett, who, I mean, aren't insanely awesome pitchers this year. However, they both go out and you see spot starters for games 2 and 3. You did your job in game 2. I will give them that. But in game 3, they did okay. But then Bryce Miller just kind of pissed the game away within 4 innings, is what it felt like. The offense could have came back, you know, and I obviously I would have thought and liked them to get more than 4 runs. So I'm not putting this all on Bryce Miller. But overall, like, when you already are at a 6-run deficit within 4 innings of work, within 3 innings realistically, because he had a clean 4th. I mean, that's a hard obstacle to overcome. But overall, just the only word I can come up with is unacceptable. It is unacceptable to play like that against that team. It's unacceptable to not get the series win against that team. I'm not saying they need to win every single series they go across, but this is the 2024 Miami Marlins we're talking about. It's unacceptable to lose this series. And now you're going into Tampa Bay. Right now, the pitching matchups are game 1, Brian Wu versus Taj Bradley, game 2, Luis Castillo versus Zach Littell, and game 3, George Kirby versus Ryan Pepio. I normally would say, oh, you have the pitching matchup for all 3 games, which is normally kind of the case. But if there's anything that I've learned from this Miami series is that even if we have the pitching matchup for all 3 games, that doesn't really mean anything, especially with this offense. It feels like at this point, it just doesn't really mean anything. I'm frustrated, and that's why I'm not going to be doing this huge elaborate edit with a bunch of videos of highlights and all that, because frankly, I'm not in the mood to do that. But all I can hope is that the guys learn something from this. They can hopefully bounce back in Tampa Bay, have a good series there, and then you're back at home for a little bit. So, but yeah, that's going to be it for me. If you're new to the channel, subscribe to me. It helps me out a lot. If you like the video as well, that helps me too in the algorithm. And comment down below kind of your thoughts about this series in Miami. You can use it as a bit of a, you know, journal, if you will. You can spew out whatever you want at this point. That's gonna be it for me in this one, and I will see you in the next.